Rose had just tasted freedom. Jack had just found someone who saw him not as a risk, not as a mistake, but as a possibility. And that is where love becomes most vulnerable. Not when it is loud, not when it is promised, but when it is still becoming. This is the part of their story where stolen moments turn into attachment, where laughter grows heavier with meaning, where being together starts to feel necessary. Because in this next chapter, Jack and Rose don't just fall closer, they fall deeper, into each other, into danger. This is where it begins to cost them something. There is a dangerous moment in every love story, a moment where the heart becomes greedy, where the present feels so good that the mind starts building a future out of it. Rose starts to imagine life beyond this journey, not as a plan, as a feeling. She imagines waking up without permission, walking without being followed, choosing without being corrected. She imagines laughter that doesn't end when other people enter the room. Jack talks about the future the way he talks about everything, not like a guarantee, like a possibility, like a road that might be taken if the world is kind enough to allow it. They begin to speak in after the ship docks, after the journey ends, after the noise of this place is behind them. But even as their words lean toward tomorrow, something else sits beneath them. A quiet awareness, a shadow, a truth neither of them wants to name, because forever is a dangerous word when time is already running out. They don't know it yet, not consciously, but the universe has already started closing around them. There are moments when the wind changes, moments when the air feels sharper than it should, when the ocean looks too calm, like it is holding its breath. Rose feels it once, standing near the rail, watching the horizon. A strange chill runs through her, even though she is wrapped in warmth. Not physical, instinctive. Like her body senses something her mind has not accepted yet. Jack notices it too, in the way crew members move differently, in the way night settles heavier than usual, in the way the ship seems almost too confident, too unstoppable, too sure of itself. But they push the feeling away, because people in love do that. They protect joy. They guard hope. They refuse to imagine tragedy. And for a brief span of time, it works. They laugh, they talk, they let the future become a place they can almost touch. Rose looks at Jack and thinks, not, I love him. Not yet, not as words, but as certainty. I am not the same person I was before him. Jack looks at Rose and thinks, not, I saved her, but something quieter and deeper. She is learning to save herself. And that is when love becomes real. Not when people need each other, but when they see each other becoming more alive. The ship continues forward. The sea remains dark and wide. The stars are bright. Everything looks calm. Everything looks safe. Everything looks like it will last. And that is the cruelest part. Because the happiest moments in this story are only happy because they don't yet know what's coming. They are building a dream on a moving deck. They are speaking about after. They are borrowing time without realizing it's borrowed. And somewhere ahead, far beyond their laughter, the night is waiting, silent, patient, unmoved by love. Love does not always arrive as warmth. Sometimes it arrives as control, wearing a familiar face. Sometimes it arrives with gifts and promises and a smile. And underneath it, something else moves, something hungry, something afraid. The man Rose is meant to marry, Harlan, does not call his behavior control. He calls it concern. He calls it protection. He calls it devotion. But Rose begins to understand a difference she was never taught to name. Protection shields you from harm. Control shields someone from losing you. Harlan watches Rose the way a collector watches something rare. Not because he is admiring her spirit, but because he believes her spirit belongs to him. He never says it out loud. He doesn't have to. It's in the way he stands too close when she speaks to someone else, in the way his hand lingers on her arm, too firm to be affectionate, in the way his eyes narrow when she laughs, not because he wants her joy, but because he wants to know where it came from. Rose feels the walls returning. Not physical walls. Worse. Social walls. Rules. Expectations. The invisible pressure of a world that sees her life as a transaction. When Rose begins to choose Jack's company, even in small doses, the shift is immediate. Whispers arrive. Polite warnings. Raised eyebrows that pretend to be casual. A subtle rearranging of her schedule. A sudden lack of privacy. She is never outright forbidden. That would be too obvious. Instead, she is managed, directed, moved like a piece on a board, and Rose begins to feel it. The cage is not made of metal. It's made of people. People who smile while tightening the ropes. People who say they want what's best for her and mean what's best for themselves. Jack becomes the convenient villain, because it's easier to blame Jack than to admit Rose is waking up. It's easier to call him a bad influence than to accept she has her own mind. Harlan's jealousy is not explosive. It is disciplined, strategic. It builds slowly, like pressure behind a locked door. He speaks to Rose with a softness that contains warnings. He reminds her of what she owes. He reminds her of what her family needs. He speaks of reputation the way people speak of survival, as if a single wrong step will kill them all. And Rose understands the truth behind his words. If she disappoints him, he will not simply leave. He will punish her. Not with violence, with consequences, with withdrawal of security, with humiliation, with the slow dismantling of her options. It's emotional imprisonment. A life where choices exist, but only the right ones are allowed. A life where love is conditional. A life where affection can be turned off like a lamp. Rose starts to doubt herself. Not because she doesn't know what she feels, but because fear has a way of rewriting reality. Fear asks questions like, what if you're wrong? What if you're ruining everything? What if this is the only life you get? And then there is Jack, standing outside all of it, not demanding, not pressuring, not trying to own her. Jack does not fight Harlan. He doesn't need to. Because Jack's presence already reveals what Harlan lacks: freedom. But Jack feels the danger growing. He feels the net tightening around Rose. He sees how quickly her world punishes even the smallest breath of independence. And he knows something else, too. If Rose stays in that world, it will swallow her. Not today, not loudly, slowly, forever. Rose is caught between two fears: the fear of losing comfort and the fear of losing herself. There comes a moment when love stops being a feeling and becomes a decision. Not a poetic decision, a dangerous one. The kind that changes your life, whether it works out or not. Rose reaches that moment quietly, not in front of a crowd, not with applause. With her heart beating too hard in her chest as she realizes, if she does nothing, nothing will change. She thinks of the future her world offers her. a house filled with expensive furniture, a table set perfectly, a life where she is admired in photographs and lonely in reality, a marriage where she becomes smaller each year, a life where she survives but never truly lives. Then she thinks of Jack, not as an escape, not as a fantasy, but as a mirror. Jack reflects back something Rose almost forgot, that she has a choice. Jack doesn't promise her paradise. He doesn't speak in guarantees. He speaks in possibilities. He speaks in courage. He speaks in truth that doesn't come dressed in politeness. Rose begins to understand something important. Comfort can be a drug. It numbs the pain of living someone else's life until you forget its pain at all. And love, real love, does not numb you. It wakes you up, even when waking up hurts. So Rose chooses, not because she is sure she will win, because she cannot keep losing herself. Her decision is not only about Jack. That's what makes it powerful. It is about Rose, choosing breath, choosing aliveness, choosing the terrifying responsibility of her own life. And the consequences begin immediately. A coldness in the eyes of people who once praised her. A tightening of control disguised as concern. A sudden sharpness in every conversation. Harlan's politeness begins to crack. Not into rage, into something more chilling. Certainty. The certainty of a man who believes he has the right to decide her future. He offers her comfort like a leash. He reminds her of what she stands to lose. He presses guilt into her hands like a weight. Your family, your security, your reputation, your place in the world. Rose feels the old fear rise. The fear she has lived with for so long she almost mistakes it for normal. But this time, she notices something else. When she thinks of returning to obedience, she feels sick. When she imagines surrendering, her chest tightens. Not from sadness from self-betrayal. Jack never forces her. He never demands she burn her whole life down. He simply stays honest. And his honesty gives her courage. Rose begins to act differently. She stops asking permission in small ways. She stops apologizing for existing. She starts moving like someone who remembers she is not owned. This is love under pressure. Not the kind that thrives in perfect conditions. The kind that survives scrutiny. The kind that gets stronger when tested. Because it is built on something rare. Choice. But the pressure is relentless. Because a world built on control will always fight back when someone tries to leave it. And then something strange happens. The noise eases. Not because the danger is gone, but because the world is holding its breath. The ship glides forward as if nothing can touch it. The air is crisp, clean, almost too clean. Music drifts through bright rooms again, soft notes, measured rhythm, a comfort designed to convince people everything is fine. Rose hears the music like an echo, as if it belongs to a different life. Jack and Rose find themselves in a quieter pocket of time, not because they are safe, but because the night has grown strangely still. The ocean looks smooth, unbroken, dark glass under the stars. The ship cuts through it with a confidence that borders on arrogance. There are fewer footsteps in the corridors, more whispers, more closed doors, a sense that something is being prepared or avoided. Rose stands near the rail again, not on the edge this time, just looking. Her hair moves in the wind. Her eyes search the horizon. She doesn't know what she's looking for, only that something inside her feels unsettled. Jack stands beside her. They don't talk much. They don't need to. The silence between them is warm, a quiet agreement, a shared understanding that this moment matters. Rose feels something bittersweet rise in her chest, because joy, when it's fragile, always comes with fear. The fear that it can be taken. The fear that the universe does not allow people to keep what they love. Jack looks out at the water. He is calm, but not careless. There's a seriousness behind his eyes. Not panic, instinct. The ship continues forward. The music continues. The night continues to pretend it is gentle. And somewhere, far ahead, something waits. Not named, not seen, not fully understood. But Rose feels it. A tiny shiver, not caused by cold. A quiet warning carried on the wind. Forever is a dangerous word when time is already running out. The night wears its calm like a disguise. There is music somewhere inside the ship, soft and polite, the kind that convinces people the world is stable. There are lights, warmth, laughter that rises and falls like nothing dangerous could ever reach them. The sea is smooth, so smooth it looks rehearsed. And the ship moves through it with the confidence of a thing that believes it cannot be challenged. Rose is not in the grand rooms now. She's in a quieter passage of air and shadow, where the cold bites a little sharper, where the wind has more honesty. Jack is near her, close enough that she can sense his presence even when she doesn't look. They aren't talking much. Their silence is comfortable, a rare kind of peace. Then the ship shivers. It is not a dramatic crash. It is not a loud explosion. It is something worse, a subtle wrongness. A vibration that travels through the bones of the ship, as if the ocean itself has dragged a fingernail along steel. Rose feels it in her feet first, a long, uneasy tremor. She pauses. Jack pauses too. Both of them listening not with ears, but with instinct. For a moment, nothing happens, and that is what makes it so unsettling. The ship continues. The lights do not flicker. The music does not stop. It is as if the world refuses to admit anything has changed. Rose turns her head slightly, searching faces. Some people look up, mildly annoyed, as if someone bumped a table. Others laugh it off. A few keep walking without pause. Comfort does that. It teaches the body to deny danger. A low murmur begins. Not panic. Not yet. Just a growing sense of confusion. A question moving through the corridors without words. Was that something? Jack's gaze sharpens. Not fearful. Focused. He scans the ship the way a person scans a forest after hearing a twig snap. He isn't looking for reassurance. He's looking for truth. Rose's heart begins to beat harder. Not because she understands what happened, but because her body remembers something her mind is trying to forget. How it felt to stand on the edge earlier. How fragile safety truly is. Minutes pass with painful slowness, and then subtle signs appear, like the first cracks in a surface that's pretending to hold. A crew member moves faster than he should. A door closes too firmly. A voice speaks in a lowered tone that isn't meant for passengers. People begin to step into hallways, asking questions they don't want answered. Rose returns toward the brighter areas with the others, pulled by a shared human instinct. If everyone else is calm, then calm must be correct. But the ship feels different now. Not broken, not yet, just altered. Like a heartbeat that has skipped and refuses to explain why. Denial spreads quickly, because denial is comforting. Denial says, this is nothing. This will pass. You're safe. And then Rose sees something that makes her stomach go cold. Not water, not damage. Something more telling than either. A man's face. A crewman's face. Tight, controlled. The expression of someone who knows exactly how serious a thing is and is trying not to let it spill into the air. Rose stops. Jack stops beside her. Their eyes meet. In that glance is a silent exchange. Jack is not imagining it. Rose is not overreacting. Something is wrong. The ship keeps moving, but it no longer feels unstoppable. It feels like a lie still being told, even after the truth has arrived. When panic begins, it does not start as screaming. It starts as people trying to stay civilized, asking questions politely, laughing too loudly, standing straighter than they feel, because fear is humiliating in public. Then the temperature of the ship changes, not literally at first, emotionally. The air becomes sharper, conversations shorten, people stop smiling at strangers. They begin to hold their belongings closer, as if possessions can protect them. Rose looks for Jack. He's there, then he's not. Not because he has abandoned her, but because movement becomes messy when crowds grow anxious. A doorway fills, a corridor bottlenecks, a sudden surge of people splits them like water around a rock. Rose's breath catches. Her eyes search. Her heart begins to pound. The ship feels enormous now. Not like luxury, like a maze. She calls his name once, quietly. Then again, louder. But voices are rising everywhere, questions, complaints, orders that blur into noise. Jack appears again, briefly, in a gap between bodies. He raises a hand, a simple signal. Stay where you are. And then he's swallowed by motion. Rose's world tilts. Not physically, emotionally. Because for the first time since meeting Jack, she feels what she used to feel all the time. Alone. She pushes forward, not elegantly, not politely. She moves like someone who has decided she will not be managed tonight. Harlan appears in her path like an answer she didn't ask for. He looks composed, but his composure has sharp edges now. He reaches for her arm. Not harshly, firmly. The same firm that says, I decide where you go. Rose pulls back. Her voice is steady, but her body trembles. Fear is rising in her, and Harlan is trying to shape it into obedience. He says things meant to anchor her to him. Rules, safety, proper places to stand, proper instructions to follow. He speaks like control is the cure for panic. But Rose isn't panicking because she lacks instructions. She's panicking because the one person who made her feel alive is somewhere in this growing chaos. She looks past Harlan, scanning. Jack. 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 She sees him again, farther now. Jack is moving against the current, not with it. He is searching too. Not for safety. For her. That realization does something fierce inside Rose. It turns fear into determination. The ship begins to change in tangible ways. A slant that is barely perceptible at first. A chill that wasn't there earlier. The quiet urgency of crew moving with purpose now, no longer pretending. Then the first real wave of panic hits. A scream breaks through the air like glass shattering. Someone runs. And once one person runs, the truth spreads faster than any announcement. People believe the danger now. Rose is shoved sideways, A shoulder knocks her. A hand grazes her dress. She loses her balance for a second and catches herself on a wall. Her fingers slip on polished surface. Her throat tightens. Jack's voice cuts through somewhere, brief, urgent, not theatrical. He's close now. Rose turns and there he is, breath visible in the cold, eyes locked onto hers like she's the only steady thing left. He reaches her, not with romance, with relief. The kind of relief people feel when they find what they thought they might lose forever. He takes her hand, not possessively, protectively, like a promise in action. And now they move together, through hallways that feel narrower with each minute, through groups of strangers who look less like passengers and more like frightened animals, through doors that are suddenly guarded by rules no one agreed to. Love becomes practical in crisis. It becomes grip and breath and staying close. It becomes the refusal to let the crowd rewrite who matters. Rose's heart is loud. A panel. A door torn from somewhere above, ripped into the sea like a discarded thought. The cold is now a living force. It bites instantly. It eats at skin and breath. It steals strength without asking. Jack helps Rose onto the floating wood. He lifts her with urgency, but not panic. He places her carefully, as if gentleness matters even here, even now. Rose tries to pull him up. Her hands grasp his arms. She tugs, her muscles strain, her breath breaks. Jack doesn't climb, not fully, not onto the center, not into the place where survival is possible. Rose realizes it before she can accept it. This wood can hold one body safely. Two bodies, and the water wins faster. Jack's face is close to hers. His expression is quiet, not tragic, certain. Minimal words pass between them. Not speeches, not dramatic declarations, just fragments, barely louder than breath. Rose shakes her head. Her eyes burn. Her body trembles with refusal. Her hands tighten. She does not want to be the one who stays. Jack's hand lifts, touching her cheek with fingers already losing warmth. The touch is gentle, a final tenderness in a world turning cruel. Rose tries again. She pulls. She begs with her eyes. She cannot imagine living in a world where Jack is not breathing. Jack remains where he is, half in the freezing water, half in her life, holding the line between love and sacrifice. And then it happens not as a dramatic moment, but as a silent decision that has been forming inside him from the start. Jack stops fighting to save himself and starts fighting only to save her. He keeps his voice calm because panic would break her. He needs her unbroken. He needs her alive. Rose's sob catches in her throat. The cold tries to steal her voice. She presses her forehead toward his, trying to keep him close with sheer will, as if desire can warm a body, as if love can command the ocean. But the ocean does not negotiate. Jack's breaths begin to slow. His words become fewer. His eyes remain steady. This is the choice, not framed as heroism, not as romance, as truth. One life for another. One future purchased with loss. And the silence around them grows. Not empty, heavy, sacred. Jack knows something Rose doesn't want to know yet. Surviving will be harder than dying. Because surviving means carrying this moment forever. He keeps Rose focused, not on the cold, not on him, on what comes after, on breath, on the next second, on the stubborn, defiant act of staying alive. His voice is quieter now, not weak soft, like he is speaking from a place already drifting away. He gives her a promise to hold. Not a romantic promise, a practical one, a life-shaped one. Rose's lips tremble. She tries to speak. Her words break apart. Tears freeze on her cheeks. She nods because she can't do anything else. She nods because he needs her to. Jack's hand remains against hers as long as it can, fingers stiffening, grip loosening. Not from choice, from cold. Rose presses her hand harder into his, trying to transfer heat that isn't there, trying to force life back into him, trying to deny what the night is demanding. Jack's eyes search hers, one last time, and there is so much inside that look. Gratitude, love, relief, sorrow held back for her sake. He doesn't ask her to remember him. He knows she will. He asks something else. That she lives. That she keeps going when the grief tries to drown her later. That she becomes the future he cannot have. Then the moment arrives. Not dramatic, not loud, just inevitable. Jack's grip eases. His hand slips away. His body grows still, and the ocean, patient as ever, begins to take what it has been waiting for. Rose makes a sound that doesn't feel human, a broken breath, a grief too large for one body. She leans forward as if she can pull him back with longing, but the night holds him, the water holds him. And Rose realizes she is alone on the wood now, alive. Her chest convulses, her teeth chatter, her eyes stare at the shape of loss beside her. Then, in the distance, a thin possibility pierces the darkness. A sound, a signal, a chance. Rose's face changes, not because she is okay, because she understands what Jack has done, and what that means she must do now. She inhales frozen air. She lifts her head. She gathers what little strength remains in her bones. And she chooses the only way to honor love in a world that just broke her. She chooses to live. Rose does not feel rescued. They never grew careless with each other's presence. They never had the chance to stop choosing each other. Their love exists in memory exactly as it was, alive, awakening, unfinished. And unfinished things haunt us more than completed ones. Loss hurts, but legacy hurts longer, because legacy stays. Jack did not leave Rose with a future. He left her with a direction. He altered how she measured worth, how she defined freedom, how she recognized love. And that is the cruel paradox of short love. It does not give you time. It gives you truth. And once you have tasted that truth, you cannot untasted it. Rose could have lived her entire life without ever knowing what love felt like. She could have survived comfortably, respectably, unaware. Instead, she felt something real. And reality, once known, makes ignorance impossible. Short love hurts because it raises the standard. It shows you what connection can be. And then it leaves you with that knowledge, alone. There is no unlearning it, no returning to the smaller version of yourself, no pretending comfort is enough. That is why short loves stay sharp. They do not dull with time, they deepen. Because every experience after them is compared, every relationship measured, every silence questioned. Rose carries Jack not as a memory of pain, but as a reference point, a proof, a reminder that love can exist without ownership, without control, without safety. And that reminder is both a gift and a wound. Jack is no longer beside her. He lives in her choices, in her courage, in every moment she chooses life over fear. And maybe that's why this story stays. And if this story found you tonight, if it slowed you down, if it made you feel something you weren't expecting, then maybe it means you're someone who understands that love is not always about how long it lasts. Sometimes, it's about how deeply it changes us. If stories like this matter to you, if you believe emotions deserve time, if you want more stories that linger long after they end, then you're welcome here. Kindly like this video and subscribe for more stories like this, stories about love, loss, and the moments that shape us. Do you believe some people come into our lives not to stay, but to teach us how to live?